A year ago, my mentor and I wrote this book, The Rise and Fall of Gautam Adani, Life, Success, Hindenburg and Beyond. We primarily tried to answer questions like who is the real Gautam Adani? How is the Adani Group growing so fast? Are concerns about Adani Group's debt levels warranted? And if there is any correlation between Adani Group's meteoric rise and the BJP coming into power. You can find our book on Amazon. This is the free audiobook. Hope you enjoy. Few narratives have been as captivating and polarizing as the life of Gautam Adani. Rising from a humble background to achieving tremendous business success, diversifying into a vast range of industries and scaling at a breakneck speed seems like a miracle. Adani's 40-year entrepreneurial journey has witnessed many ups and downs, and he is no stranger to controversies, as we'll discover in this book. However, 2019 to the present has been particularly eventful for the Adani Group. What is especially spectacular and equally perplexing is the sharp rise in their market capitalization from around $25 billion in 2019 to over $250 billion by 2022, a tenfold increase in just 3 years. On January 24, 2023, however, this juggernaut came crashing down when the Hindenburg Research released its explosive report, Adani Group, How the World's Third Richest Man is Pulling the Largest Con in Corporate History. It stirred up a real hornet's nest. The Adani Group stock price plummeted over 60%. More so, it provided the much needed ammo for the opposition parties that jumped at this opportunity to protest and question Adani's close ties with the ruling BJP government. Demands of a joint parliamentary committee, JPC, grew louder and louder. Further, the Adani Group became a topic of everyday discussion both in media and public, with many predicting doom and gloom for the Adani Group and whether this could threaten the broader Indian economy. This cacophony reached a crescendo against the backdrop of 4 state elections in India held in the first half of 2023 and the upcoming general elections of 2024. With the Supreme Court monitored probe into Hindenburg allegations getting underway, a high voltage drama is going to unfold in the coming months in the run up to the general elections next year. In this book, we take a peek into the early life and remarkable rise of Gautam Adani while unraveling the intricate political dynamics, the findings of the Hindenburg saga, and its fallout. Is this the beginning of the end for Gautam Adani or just a blip? Is there a correlation between the Adani Group's growth and the BJP government's rise at the helm? Who is the real Gautam Adani? How did the Adani Group grow so fast? Are concerns about Adani Group's debt unwarranted? But before we get into this, let's have a rough understanding of Adani Group's various businesses. Adani Enterprises. Adani Enterprises was founded in 1993 and is the flagship company of the Adani Group with diverse business interests across sectors such as mining, airports, infrastructure, real estate, renewable energy, data center, agriculture, defense, and aerospace. Different Adani Group companies started as a part of the Adani Enterprises, such as Adani Power, Adani Transmission, Adani Ports, and Adani Green Energy. They were hived off later as an independent company and had their IPOs. Adani Ports. Adani Ports was founded in 1998 and has become the largest commercial port operator in India. They account for nearly a quarter of India's port capacity and cargo movement. Their first and landmark port with which their journey started is the Mundra port, which we would read about extensively in this splendid book. Adani Power. Adani Power was founded in August 1996. It became a private limited company in June 2002 and was converted into a public limited company after its IPO in April 2007. It is one of the biggest private thermal power generation companies in India with thermal power plants in Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh. Today Adani Power has a total installed capacity of 13,650 megawatts. Adani Transmission. Adani Transmission was founded in 2013 and is the largest private transmission company in India. It spun out of Adani Enterprises' decade-old transmission business that operated from Mundra Thermal Power Station of 3,800 circuit kilometers. Today it operates around 20,000 circuit kilometers of transmission lines. Adani Green Energy. Adani Green Energy was founded in 2015 and is one of India's largest renewable energy companies. Their renewable energy projects in solar and wind collectively have a total capacity of 20,434 megawatts. Adani Total Gas. Adani Total Gas, formerly known as Adani Gas, was incorporated in 2005 and supplied PNG or piped natural gas to industrial, commercial and residential sectors and compressed natural gas CNG to the transport sector. The company has gas distribution networks in parts of Gujarat, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh. In 2019, Adani Gas and Total Gas established a 50-50 joint venture to cater to the LNG market of India and Bangladesh. Adani Wilmar. Adani Wilmar was incorporated in 1999 as a joint venture between Adani Group and Wilmar Group, one of Asia's largest agribusiness group. It is an FMCG company offering essential kitchen commodities such as edible oils, wheat, flour, rice, pulses, and more. It has 23 manufacturing and processing plants around 10 states in India. Adani Wilmar is also the biggest manufacturer and exporter of castor oil and owns Fortune, the highest selling Indian edible oils brand. Recent acquisitions by Adani Group in 2022 marked their entry into two business verticals, cement and media. The acquisition of Ambuja Cement and ACC from Holcim and a controlling stake in the news media company NDTV. The cement acquisition makes them the second largest player in Indian cement industry after Aditya Birla's Ultratech Cement. Chapter 1: Early Foundation. You don't learn to walk by following the rules. You learn by doing and falling over. Richard Branson. From airports to seaports, cement to real estate, coal to green energy, and even edible oils, Adani Group's 10 listed businesses and their subsidiaries are spread across 6 continents. Since its inception in 1988, Adani Group has emerged as one of the world's fastest growing business conglomerates. The man behind it all is Gautam Adani, and at one point in time, he became the world's second richest person in 2022 with a net worth of $155.7 billion according to Forbes. Early years 1962 to 1978. Gautam Adani was born on June 24, 1962 in Ahmedabad, the west coast city of India, to a middle-class textile merchant, Mr. Shantilal Adani, and a homemaker, Mrs. Shantaben Adani. Gautam is one of 7 siblings, 6 brothers and 1 sister. There's not much information available in the public domain about Gautam Adani's sister. Ever since Gautam was a little child, he displayed sharp intellect and a flair for excellence. Gautam studied in Seth C.N. Vidya Vihar School, Ambavati, Ahmedabad. And after clearing his grade 10 exams, he secured admission in the science stream, physics, chemistry, and maths. Nonetheless, despite being a bright student, Gautam chose to drop out. His elder brother returned home upon completion of his higher studies abroad. Gautam's rationale was that if his brother eventually returned to join the family business, why not start a business right away? Gautam regrets not finishing his college education though. He shared this sentiment in an interview on a popular TV program, Aapki Adalat. He believes that if he had gone to college, it would have expanded his ability and business faster. Diamond trading, 1978 to 1981. Since Gautam wanted to work outside of his family's textile business, he left for Mumbai in 1978 at a tender age of 16 to foray into the diamond trading business. At a school event in Palanpur Vidya Mandir, Gujarat, in January 2023, he reminisced, "I was just 16 years old when I chose to give up my education and move to Mumbai." In this context, a question I often get asked is, why did I move to Mumbai and not work with my family? As many youngsters in the audience would agree, the optimism and desire for independence of a teenager are hard to contain. All I knew was that I wanted to do something that is different and do it on my own. When Gautam moved to Mumbai, he started working with the Mahindra brothers as a diamond sorter. After learning the craft for 3 years, he left to begin his own diamond broking business at Zaveri Bazaar. He often talks about the day he made his first trade and earned a commission of 10,000 rupees from a Japanese buyer. Along with work, Gautam also enrolled himself into the South Mumbai College temporarily. However, he soon quit owing to his hectic schedule and desire to focus on his business. India is the world's largest diamond cutting and polishing center, clocking a revenue of over $23 billion. No doubt that the diamond industry caught young Gautam's attention. Riddled with low margins, price volatility, and currency risk, it served as a great learning ground for Gautam. This vital experience also set him up to foray into the commodity trading and mining businesses later. Plastic business, 1981 to 1988. In 1981, 19-year-old Gautam decided to head back to Ahmedabad at the behest of his brothers Mahasukh Adani and Vasant Adani to set foot into the fast-growing plastic processing and trading business. Gautam was not only involved in trading, but also production. His exposure included sourcing and importing raw materials, handling manufacturing, recruiting, marketing, and managing finances. which helped him nurture a strong business acumen at the onset of his 20s. Import export 1988 to 1995. In the mid 1980s, the wind of change started blowing. The government under Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi brought about favorable changes in the export import policy of the country. Gautam Adani calls this the time of his first breakthrough in his career. Upon sensing this opportunity and armed with existing experience with plastic imports, he further expanded into the export business. And this is how Adani Exports came into being in 1988. By the late 1980s, India's forex reserve was steadily depleting and hit an all-time low of under $2 billion in 1991. Barely enough to last 3 weeks of essential imports. India desperately needed to ramp up its exports to build its foreign reserve. The situation was so grave that the Reserve Bank of India had to sell India's gold reserves to bolster its foreign reserves. But with every crisis comes an opportunity. The Adani brothers went all in and shelved the plastic business to focus on exports full time. Thus, the seeds of the Adani Group, the behemoth we know today, were sown. Ports and beyond, 1995 and beyond. The grand opportunity knocked at Gautam's doors when the American food business firm Cargill started scouting for a suitable partner to source salt from the Kutch region of Gujarat in 1990. They wanted to export this salt through the Mundra port. Mundra, Kutch district, Gujarat. This is when the Adani Group stepped in. Cargill and Adani reached an agreement to have a 50-50 joint venture. The deal unfortunately did not go through when Cargill pressed on holding a majority stake. Although this deal did not materialize, Cargill chose to pursue its venture from Kandla port. Adani had his eyes set on Mundra port. This event was the genesis of Adani Port's journey and a watershed moment in his entrepreneurial career. Gautam had always experienced gross inefficiencies in ports while exporting, and he thus saw a massive business opportunity. At this time, the government of Gujarat was also focused on port development, as we'll discuss in chapter 4. So in 1995, with a 74-26 partnership between the Adani Group and the state government, Mundra Port came through. Mundra Port was the foundation of the Adani Group, and after the acquisition of success of Mundra project, the Adani Group ended up acquiring and developing more ports across India, followed by a foray into several other large-scale businesses, such as power generation and transmission, renewable energy, natural gas, edible oils, and airports, amongst others. None of these would have come through in the absence of the Mundra port. And as a result, over the years, the Adani Group became one of India's biggest and fastest growing business conglomerates that catapulted Gautam Adani to the top of the world's richest list. It raises questions of how Gautam Adani tasted tremendous success in diverse businesses in such a short period while performing better than most of its competitors. What sets him apart? Is it his unquenchable appetite for risk, or his exceptional business acumen? Or is it just alleged political patronage? Or all of the above? We'll find out soon. Chapter 2: Hunger to Grow. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. Henry Ford. In the realm of entrepreneurial success stories, a common thread we often find is the insatiable hunger that drives them to incredible heights. Gautam too possesses this quality, to keep pushing boundaries and exploring new avenues. His relentless pursuit of growth has been a key attribute in building the Adani Group from scratch to an empire spanning multiple sectors worldwide. The scale at which Adani thinks is unparalleled, and his keen eye for identifying growth opportunities can be seen in the bold moves he has made over his 40-year-long career, and successfully so. There have been very few iconic business leaders in the past who have the vision to define their era the way Gautam Adani has defined his. No surprise, there are comparisons drawn between Adani and other successful businessmen. One such example is Adani's idol, a much celebrated first generation Indian entrepreneur who came from humble beginnings to set up another one of India's largest business conglomerates was Dheerajlal Hirachand Ambani, famously known as Dhirubhai Ambani, founder of Reliance Industries. As a first generation entrepreneur himself, Gautam considers Dhirubhai a source of deep inspiration. Interestingly, their lives, ambition, and scale have a lot of similarities that allow us to draw parallels. Like Gautam Adani, Dhirubhai Ambani also hails from Gujarat. He too left home early at the age of 16 for Aden, Yemen. Dhirubhai also started in the trading business with spices, but soon expanded into other commodities just like Adani. Later, Reliance Industries built the world's largest oil refinery. Jamnagar refinery was to Ambani what Mundra port is to Adani. Fast forward, Reliance Industries ventured into textile, petrochemicals, refining, telecommunications, retail, and more. In fact, the two constant contenders for the tag of India and Asia's richest person have been Gautam Adani and Dhirubhai's son, Mukesh Ambani. Gautam went from a small diamond trader who left for Mumbai in 1978 with 100 rupees in his pocket to build an empire worth over $100 billion and counting within the last 45 years. His stupendous growth is primarily a result of his deep-rooted passion for expansion and his ability to identify great opportunities. Small trader with a big heart, Gautam left Mumbai and his diamond trading business to join his brother's plastic processing and packaging business in Ahmedabad in 1981. He always possessed a progressive outlook and wanted to grow fast. Within a short span, thanks to Gautam's appetite for expansion, the firm went from sourcing a few tons of raw materials for their factory to importing thousands of tons to sell domestically. When Gautam found he could source cheaper raw materials in South Korea, his ambition took him to his first international trip. In 1983, at the age of 21, he visited South Korea to purchase raw materials for their packaging factory. Even though the packaging factory's requirement was 20 tons, Gautam placed an order for 200 tons, sensing an arbitrage opportunity where he could sell them at a handsome profit in India. This is how the plastic processing business eventually became an importing business, and there was no stopping at this. The next stop was exporting. In 1988, Gautam founded Adani Exports to seize the opportunity that presented themselves with the EXIM, export-import policy changes we discussed in the previous chapter. Gautam exported a wide variety of commodities across industries and soon became a formidable name in Gujarat's exporting business. Small trader to a port owner, a massive leap. While exporting as a trader, Gautam experienced inefficiencies in ports such as Oka and Mundra. He felt that with efficient management of these ports, time and money could be saved. Perhaps that is why even when the Adani Kargil deal, details in chapter 1, failed, he still went ahead and acquired Mundra port with the Gujarat government's support. At this time, all major ports were owned by the government, whereas the privately owned ports were of a much smaller scale and lacked connecting infrastructure. Mundra port, for instance, was merely 71 kilometers away from the much bigger and more well-developed Kandla port. With stiff competition from Kandla port, many doubted if Mundra could even ever be successful. Back then, there was no railroad connecting private ports and Indian railways. Adani realized that for the Mundra port to be a success, it needed to be well connected with infrastructure such as road and rail. Nevertheless, there was no clear government policy on it, which made the port development quite challenging. To acquire land for this development, Gautam individually negotiated with over 500 landowners and fought lawsuits. He persisted and eventually prevailed. By 2003, the port had 70 kilometers of railroads connecting it to the national rail network, increasing its reach to any location in India, thus eliminating multiple handling and reducing losses and costs. Additionally, Adani paid a lot of attention to obtaining efficiency through the mechanization of cargo handling, which is the time between the arrival of a vessel and its departure. While the turnaround time at Kandla port was about 2 to 3 days, Adani successfully cut it down to under 1 day at Mundra port. Between 1997 and 2013, while Kandla grew from 8 dry cargo berths to 13 dry and 6 liquid cargo berths, Mundra port grew from 0 to 28 dry and 4 liquid cargo berths. In under 15 years, Mundra port had overtaken Kandla to become the largest port in India in terms of capacity. The next crucial step for Adani was investing in a dedicated power generation facility, which eventually turned into two massive power generation ventures, Adani Power and Adani Green Energy. Expansion continues from ports to power and beyond. When Mundra port was set up, there was a plan to install a dedicated power generation facility. The government floated a tender of 330 megawatt power plant for which Adani and the Tata Group bid. Unfortunately for Adani, Tata Group won the bid. Adani Group's plan to set up the power plant at Mundra seemed to be over. However, an existing provision in the law allowed the Adani Group to set up another power plant under a public-private partnership with the government. Later, Adani stumbled upon another business opportunity. India had a growing power deficit and needed to desperately increase their power production. One thing led to another, and the plan scaled from one 330 megawatt power plant at Mundra to four 330 megawatt power plants at Mundra within a few months. And they did not stop here. Within 3 years of commencing the first 330 megawatt power plant in 2009, Adani Power had a capacity of 4,620 megawatts by 2012. Today, Adani Power has a total installed capacity of 13,650 megawatts. This essentially marked the beginning of Adani's exponential growth in the following years. Adani Group went on to acquire 13 ports across India and the Haifa port in Israel. They set up 8 operational power plants across India in Gujarat, Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Jharkhand. Their power generation business is no longer dependent only upon coal. Adani Green is the largest renewable energy company in India with an installed capacity of over 20,000 megawatts. Adani Group also distributes the power through Adani Transmission, the largest privately owned transmission company in India. The list doesn't end here. With natural gas, edible oils, hydrogen, airports, cement, data center, and mining, it has become India's fastest growing and one of the world's most diversified business conglomerates. What's unbelievable is that most of it has happened only in the last 2 decades. And they show no signs of slowing down, with growth plans both domestically and internationally. The growth story showcases the scale of thinking of a boy who at the tender age of 16 dared to move to Mumbai with a paltry sum of 100 rupees. Chapter 3. Risk Taking. Risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. Warren Buffett. Risk equals reward. As we see in life, the higher the risk, the sweeter the reward. Successful people understand it better than anybody else and venture into territories that most people won't touch with a 10-foot pole. The burning desire to make a mark for themselves is the drive behind their adventures. Such people bet big, move swiftly, rise quickly, and set themselves apart. Gautam Adani too showed signs of risk-taking ever since he was a young kid. Can you fathom leaving formal education willingly at the age of 16, let alone moving to a new city to start a new business with no experience? As previously mentioned, Gautam's elder brother was highly qualified with foreign education, and Gautam's family was in the textile business. Pursuing further education would have been the natural choice since he was a good student. Later, joining the family business would have been a much easier choice, yet he chose an off-beaten path. Leaving formal education was the first significant risk Gautam took when he moved to Mumbai to venture into diamond trading. And it was only possible because of the sense of clarity he had as a young boy. We've already seen how Gautam went on to make big business moves with the plastic processing and trading business. Gautam has always been willing to take risks and expand his businesses at a rate that very few around him could envision or digest. After the initial success of the Mundra port and the power generation business, Gautam did not stop there. That was just the start. Here are 2 brief accounts of Gautam's business moves and where his risk appetite is highlighted. Dhamra Port Acquisition. Dhamra Port is located in Odisha, the east coast state of India. As of today, the Dhamra Port Company Limited operates a deep draft port and is equipped with high state-of-the-art handling equipment and technology, which can cater to the biggest dry bulk vessels. It is poised to become the biggest and most efficient port on the east coast of India, yet things were not always like this for Dhamra. Dhamra Port began its operations in April 2011 as a joint venture between Larsen & Toubro and Tata Steel. It aimed to serve the states of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Odisha. Since these states are resource rich, the port initially dealt with bulk cargo of coal and iron ore, amongst other natural resources. However, the duo of Larsen & Toubro and Tata Steel was struggling to make it break even. The port had reported a loss of nearly 340 crores as of financial year 13. Thus, in 2014, the JV decided to sell the port. This was a project that 2 of the most reputable and established business conglomerates in India had failed to operate profitably. Subsequently, Adani Group entered the scene and risked buying the loss-making port for a startling sum of 5,500 crores, with the belief that they could replicate the success of Mundra port at Dhamra. Upon acquisition, Gautam Adani said that the Dhamra port acquisition now gives us the opportunity to replicate the development and phenomenal growth of Mundra port on the eastern coast of India. Post-acquisition, Adani Group started Dhamra port's second phase of development. The plan was to increase its capacity to over 100 million tons by 2020. With increased capacity, higher efficiency and cost saving also would follow. Further, Dhamra port adopted the best practices and technology of other Adani ports, such as flagship Mundra port. The billion-dollar question, which came with this billion-dollar acquisition, was whether the Adani Group could turn around the loss-making Dhamra port. By 2017, not only did the Dhamra port break even, but also delivered a profit of 180 crores. Adani's risk had paid off, leaving many scratching their heads as to how they were able to pull this off. Dhamra port has continued to grow at 25 to 30% annually and shows no signs of stopping. Another such story is the acquisition of the Carmichael coal mines. An Adani Group project which has received global attention was their bid to operate one of the world's biggest coal mines, Carmichael Mines in Australia. While exploring the acquisition and development of the coal mines to expand their Indian power generation business, the prospect of owning the Carmichael mines in the Gallile Basin of Australia presented itself. Carmichael's production capacity of up to 60 million tons of coal per year and investment requirement of $16.5 billion was far greater than the Adani Group's initial plan. However, being the risk taker that Gautam Adani is, he decided to go forward with it. He seems to believe the bigger the challenge, the better it is. Things ran into rough weather at the onset as the Carmichael project was deemed controversial for environmental reasons. The $16.5 billion project saw it all, from constant government delays, never-ending protests, and even most banks refusing to fund it. Every other major player with plans to begin projects in the Gallile Basin either abandoned or paused their plans, owing to the large, long-drawn battle and huge uncertainties. The project was proving to be financially untenable for the Adani Group. More on this in Chapter 5. The Adani Group nonetheless persevered, and after a lot of lobbying, joint initiatives with the Australian government, and a dash of geopolitical luck, the Carmichael Mines produced its first shipment in December 2021, 7 long years after its approval in 2014. Looking at the growth trajectory of the Adani Group and its key acquisitions, the question arises, how did Adani Group fund these projects? Well, the open secret is a much shunned 4-letter word: debt. Debt, debt, and more debt. High debt levels are considered risky, yet Adani Group seems to have a predilection for debt to fund their projects. While many businesses prioritize reducing debt, it has been the cornerstone of Adani Group's fast-paced growth. Many critics have raised concerns about the group's ability to continue servicing them. There have also been occasions when high levels of debt have backfired. One such occasion was 2017, when Adani's Mundra power plant was on the verge of bankruptcy. The price of coal had more than doubled, and the long-term contractual electricity prices eroded their ability to pay back their debt. Since this was an industry-wide phenomenon, also affecting other major business players such as Tata and Reliance, the government intervention saved the day for Adani Power. The total debt of the Adani Group as of March 31st, 2023 stands at over 2.2 lakh crores. In absolute terms, this could seem alarming. However, looking at debt in isolation can be very misleading. Let's consider an example to understand this better. Suppose Adani Group took a debt to build or acquire a solar farm. These solar farms will have long-term contracts with the government at an agreed upon price point. Once commissioned, these solar power plants will generate a steady revenue stream which in turn will be used to pay back the lenders, making it virtually risk-free unless the government goes insolvent. This is the case across different business ventures of the Adani Group, such as power plants of Adani Power, ports of Adani Ports, airports of Adani Enterprises, or transmission lines of Adani Transmission. Let's look at the total debt as of March 31st, 2023 of individual Adani Group companies. Adani Power 59,000 crores, Adani Green 52,000 crores, Adani Ports 50,000 crores, Adani Enterprises 38,500 crores, Adani Transmission 34,000 crores, Adani Wilmar 2,200 crores, and Adani Total Gas 1,400 crores. Stable debt rating. Despite concerns expressed over high debt, particularly after the Hindenburg Saga, Chapter 7 awaits you with exciting details. Both Indian and international credit rating agencies have constantly rated Adani Group debt as stable. For instance, a recent update from credit rating agency S&P said, "We believe the Adani companies we rate have long established infrastructural assets with strong fundamentals and cash flows." The rating by international rating agencies such as Moody's, S&P, and Fitch is BBB negative, which is congruent with India's sovereign rating. On the other hand, rating by domestic credit agencies for different Adani Group companies lies between A and AAA. Several bankers too have affirmed that the Adani Group's debt is backed by assets and cash flow. For example, Adani Power has net assets worth over 1 lakh crores, while their debt is less than half of that amount. All of the Adani Group companies have a positive book value, which implies that their total assets are more than their total liabilities or debt. Their earnings are also substantially higher than their annual interest payments, making servicing their debt easier. When concerns over Adani's debt became a matter of national political discussion, RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das assured that there was nothing to worry about since Adani Group's debt was backed by their assets. In a nutshell, had it not been for the massive bets placed by Adani, the tremendous growth of the Adani Group we have witnessed would not have been possible. From a strategic point of view, their investments in the last few years have been primarily in infrastructure building, in line with India's growth story. Chapter 4, Embracing Change. It is not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive, but those who can best manage change. Definitely not Charles Darwin. Gautam's growth story holds valuable insights on the transformative power of adaptability and embracing change. It exemplifies the importance of anticipating market shifts, proactively seeking new avenues of growth, and navigating through tough times. The Adani Group, over the past 35 odd years, has navigated not only social and political upheaval, but also a paradigm shift in economic policy. The India of 2023 is vastly different from the India of yore. India has now become aspirational, and we can see the confidence with which it is marching forward. However, the many different stages India has gone through are staggering. Over the 75 years of post-independence era, India has seen it all. First socialism and the infamous Hindu rate of growth, and the license Raj. Then near bankruptcy that forced liberalization. And now, the tag of being the fastest growing nation and the fifth largest economy in the world, soon to be third. Any business that has survived or rather embraced these generational changes has thrived, and Adani is a prime example. Gautam's rise is often considered controversial because the opposition parties, especially the Indian National Congress (INC), often claims that the rise of Gautam Adani is a direct result of his close ties with the BJP government. It is worth noting that the Adani Group's growth started well before 2014 when PM Modi came into power, and even before 2001 when Modi ji became the Chief Minister of the country. If we look closely at the data, more on this in Chapter 8, it is as clear as day that Adani has prospered despite the dispensation at the centre or state level, and whether it was the Congress party, the BJP, or other parties. Gautam himself shared in a TV interview how Adani Group first took off in the 1980s when Congress was in power under Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. Later, another breakthrough for the Adani Group came during the 1990s, again when Congress was in power under Prime Minister PV Narasimha Rao. Gautam talked about 4 transformative events that have played a huge role in his growth. As we'd see, it was his ability to adapt to the changing times and deliver value that is the secret recipe to his success. The 4 phases. Rajiv Gandhi's EXIM policies, which is export and import policies. During Rajiv Gandhi's term as the Prime Minister between 1984 and 1989, the government introduced policies and implemented a series of reforms that are often referred to as Rajiv Gandhi's EXIM policies. The government had begun incentivizing export activities and simplifying international trade procedures. We've already seen how Gautam and his brothers had established themselves in both the plastic processing and packaging business and started importing cheap raw materials and selling them domestically. However, with Rajiv Gandhi's liberalization of the EXIM policies and the country's need to increase exports to rebuild the country's depleting forex reserves, there came an opportunity to start an export house, and Adani grabbed it with both hands. As we've discussed in Chapter 2, the Adani brothers sensed a huge opportunity in exports and moved on from their profitable plastic processing business. As a result, Adani Exports came into existence. They began exporting commodities, pharmaceuticals, and anything that they could, and over time became a well known name in Gujarat's exporting community. License Raj to liberalization. Under the License Raj between 1947 and 1991, the Indian economy was heavily regulated with curbs on private companies, manufacturing, trade, and investments. Participation of private players was not allowed in several industries, and there were severe restrictions on imports and exports. The process of liberalization of the Indian economy in 1991 marked a swift end to the License Raj. Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao and Finance Minister Manmohan Singh led the economic liberalization, which was driven by India's balance of payment crisis and its need for foreign exchange and investments, which we have covered in the previous chapters. With the new reforms, there was a reduced dependence on state owned enterprises. Private enterprises and foreign investments, which were earlier frowned upon, were now encouraged. The policy changes eased restrictions on foreign investments, removed price controls, and reduced trade barriers, thus substantially increasing international trade, which benefited Adani directly, since this was his line of business. What's more, the policies opened up infrastructure development to private public partnerships. Before, businesses such as power generation and ports could only be operated and developed by the government or government owned companies. This change that took place in 1991 is the primary reason why Adani could go on to expand into infrastructure and energy businesses later. Additionally, with increased liquidity in banks, credit also became easily accessible. Keshubhai Patel's tenure as CM. Mundra Port, Gujarat, established in 1998, has been arguably the biggest turning point in Adani's entrepreneurial journey. It set the foundation for Adani's expansion to all the other businesses we know today. Gautam Adani has Keshubhai's rise as Chief Minister of Gujarat in 1995 to thank for that. Keshubhai steadily focused on the infrastructural and industrial development of Gujarat while leveraging Gujarat's coastal advantage to drive economic growth and attract investments. In Gautam's words, until then, all development in Gujarat was around the National Highway 8 from Mumbai to Delhi via cities like Vapi, Ankleshwar, Bharuch, Silvassa, Vadodara, Surat, and Ahmedabad. He was a visionary leader and focused on coastal development, and it was the policy change that took me to Mundra and prompted me to build our first port. The rest, as they say, is history. Narendra Modi's tenure as CM, Gujarat Growth Model. To understand the secret behind Gujarat's growth model and Narendra Modi's contribution to it, it's worth looking at an anecdote of Tata Motors and what revered Ratan Tata has to say about it. Tata Motors wanted to set up a factory for their innovative low-priced car, Tata Nano. Tata executives chose Singur, West Bengal as the ideal location for their factory because of good connectivity and quality urban and physical infrastructure. However, they faced severe opposition from the current Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee and her supporters, which were primarily agitated farmers. Tata thus, in October 2008, decided to leave Singur. That's when PM Modi, the CM of Gujarat back then, reached out to Tata and offered to help building the factory in Gujarat. He sent a 3-word message to Ratan Tata: "Welcome to Gujarat." Land acquisition was a major hurdle and concern for Ratan Tata. Modi's response, as shared by Tata later, was, "I'll get you the land within 3 days." And then he delivered on the third morning. Modi said, "Ratanji, here's the land that I promised." Ratan Tata topped it by saying that he will never forget the way Modi found solutions for companies that were looking for a home. During CM Narendra Modi's leadership, several Indian and international business conglomerates signed agreements with the Gujarat government to fund and develop mega projects. Between 2004 and 2012, Gujarat's GDP grew by 10.1%, far ahead of the national average of 7.6%. Looking at the favorable policy changes of the Modi government, Adani expanded Mundra Port and businesses around it. Like Tata, Adani acquired land around Mundra Port at a very cheap rate, discussed in Chapter 8. It helped the Adani Group scale up their power generation business and take it all across India. Adani Group also increased the Mundra port's capacity and acquired more ports. During Modi's tenure as the CM of Gujarat, Adani's existing businesses, which were ports and power, were large enough for them to expand into others. Fifth phase. While Gautam has broken down Adani's growth story and trajectory into 4 phases, we believe that there is also a 5th phase which is currently underway. Gautam's business move has always been consistent with changing times. When the country was incentivizing exports, he started an export house. When India's power generation sector had a supply demand mismatch, he chose to enter the power business. Following the election of Narendra Modi as the Prime Minister, there was a huge focus on infrastructure, digitization, and renewable energy, which set the foundation for Adani to venture into renewable energy, airports, and data center development business. Gautam, being Gautam, has already bet big on these sectors. Adani Group in September 2022 announced investing more than $100 billion over the next decade, 70% of which would be in the renewable energy business. Adani Group has gone on to manage and develop 7 airports, making them the biggest private airport operator in the country. They've also established themselves as India's biggest renewable energy player. Adani Group has joined hands for a JV with Edge Connects to develop 1000 megawatt of data center capacity over the next decade, and has also received the license for a full-fledged 5G telecom service. For reference, India's total data center coverage as of today is 700 megawatts. Lastly, the Adani Group acquired the cement companies ACC and Ambuja, making them India's second largest cement player after Aditya Birla Group's Ultratech Cement. Chapter 5: Problem Solving and Tremendous Execution. Average people have great ideas. Legends have great execution. Anonymous. Visionary entrepreneurs and industry titans showcase an uncanny ability to turn their dreams into reality while navigating through challenges with finesse. Successful businessmen view problems as opportunities that they need to grab to succeed. They exhibit resilience, agility, and the capability to think outside of the box. Gautam Adani is no different. Time and time again, the Adani Group has showcased the innate ability to execute plans and surmount complex challenges. In this chapter, we delve into 3 such stories where the Adani Group exhibited exceptional problem-solving skills and persevered to execute the unthinkable. Solar power plant, Tamil Nadu, India. We already know Gautam Adani's obsession with operating at a grand scale. One of his ambitious projects in the recent times has been the solar power plant at Kamuti, Tamil Nadu. What made the solar power plant remarkable was not just the capacity of 648 megawatts, which back then was the largest single location solar power plant in the world, but also the speed of execution. Adani Group set a target to complete the project in 8 months by 31st March 2016, which was an arduous task. For reference, the largest single location solar power plant before Kamuti was the 579 megawatt solar plant at Rosamond, California, which took almost 3 years to complete. A documentary on this project by National Geographic showed the several executives from the Adani Group thinking that they had bitten off more than they could chew. Little did they know that the future course of events was not going to be in their favor either. While things were running smoothly initially, the monsoons disrupted their well laid out plans. The 2015 floods are said to be one of the worst in nearly 100 years, devastating several parts of Tamil Nadu, including Kamuti. When the solar plant was announced, the company had internal targets of setting up 90 megawatts per month for both October and November. In October, however, they could only set up 1.6 megawatts. November and December were just as bad. The port Adani Group was sourcing its solar modules from and other materials came to a complete halt because of the flood. The future seemed bleak, and completing the project within the already tight deadline seemed impossible. Adani Group nevertheless persisted. As things gradually improved, by January, Adani Group tripled their efforts. Instead of working 12 hours, they began working 24 hours, pulling in 3 times the total number of workers who were now working in 3 shifts. The single-minded approach and coordinated effort of the Adani team paid off, and the seemingly unattainable target of completing the project by 31st March was timely accomplished, making it a rare feat. Carmichael Coal Mines, the last man standing. The Gilile Basin in Queensland, Australia, is one of the world's largest untapped coal reserves spread across an area of 247,000 square kilometers. It is estimated to contain 27 billion tons of coal and was of key interest to several coal and power generation companies around the world. The region was expected to have several projects by big mining companies like the Brazilian company Vale, Chinese-owned Mac Mines Australia, Australian company Hancock Prospecting and Wartec Coal, and the Swiss company Glencore and India's Adani Group. The development of these projects, however, faced a lot of backlash and opposition due to the environmental impact of coal mining on the region's ecosystem, including the Great Barrier Reef. What's more, the project came with major regulatory hurdles. Due to the opposition from various quarters, along with subsequent litigations, most project proposals were rejected or shelved, making it difficult to raise funds to develop these projects. When Adani Mining began scouting capital to develop the mines, they faced severe hardships. First, Australia's four banks refused to fund the project on the backs of climate change concerns. The contagion soon spread to 24 banks around the world, and Adani Mining was facing a financial crunch. Meanwhile, the dynamics of the coal industry were also changing very steadily. Coal prices were volatile, renewable energy prices were declining, and most importantly, its impact on climate became of global concern. Under these circumstances, most players had to cut their losses and fold. With the adverse focus squarely on the Adani Group, they were expected to follow suit, but they stood their ground. Adani Group made the unexpected and unprecedented move of self-funding the project. Simultaneously, Adani Group began supporting community development, publicizing how they'd be generating over 10,000 direct and indirect jobs, and how the tax collections and royalty from the project would also provide funding to deliver schools, hospitals, and roads. The group's Australian subsidiary also changed its name to Bravis, possibly to take away the negative connotation associated with the Adani Group, as claimed by many critics. The Adani Group, however, says that the new name translates to brave in Latin and resembles how the business has changed over the last decade in Australia. It was truly remarkable how the Adani Group bravosed through the long and treacherous road. In 2021, their persistence paid off amidst geopolitical tensions between Australia and China. By early 2021, China had stopped importing Australian coal, a substantial hit for Australia. With a 15% contribution to GDP, mining is a significant contributor to Australia's economy. With China's restrictions, Adani's Carmichael mines appeared as a ray of hope since its output was expected to be exported to India. After several years, Adani Group was the only one who could successfully navigate these challenging times to operate the coal mines and ship the first coal consignment in December 2021. What an example of bravest execution. Instant takeoff in aviation. Looking at the colossal growth opportunity of the Indian aviation industry, the Adani Group forayed into the airports business in 2019. According to the Adani Group, this was in line with their philosophy of nation building. In 2019, India was poised to stand as the third largest aviation market. However, the onset of COVID-19 pandemic turned it into possibly the worst time to enter the business. What's surprising is that during the pandemic, instead of putting a pause on their investment plans, Adani Group kept expanding and started modernizing and managing 8 airports in Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Lucknow, Mangaluru, Jaipur, Gujarati, and Thiruvananthapuram. The group has been working on increasing both capacity and efficiency of the airports. Thus far, they have installed more X-ray machines, electronic gates, baggage drop facilities, and self-check-in counters. The development of more terminals in Jaipur, Thiruvananthapuram, and Ahmedabad airport is also under planning or already underway. Lastly, Adani Group is also working on introducing facial recognition technology and other means of digitization to improve efficiency and ease of travel. Interestingly, within a year of entering into the business, Adani Group became India's largest airport infrastructure company. Adani Group's airports business has become the second largest revenue generator for the group now. The masterstroke, as shared by the new CEO Arun Bansal, is that their centralized airport operation control center in Mumbai has the capacity of operating 15 airports. This means whether the Adani Group takes over a new airport, the standard operating procedure automatically gets implemented and they don't have to recreate the wheel. In our opinion, all these initiatives could be the way for the Adani Group to reduce operating costs by 30 to 50% over the coming years. From the audacious development of world-class ports and solar power plants to pioneering airports and successfully navigating through the challenges such as Carmichael mines, the Adani Group has showcased unwavering commitment and tremendous execution. Moreover, Adani Group's pursuit of scale has consistently helped them drive down costs, optimize operations, and drive efficiencies, a recurring theme and the secret behind their success. Chapter 6: Gujarati roots and family-oriented approach. There is no doubt that it is around the family and the home that all the greatest virtues are created, strengthened and maintained. Winston Churchill. Gujarati roots. The western region of India has two states, Gujarat and Rajasthan, that are known for fostering entrepreneurs like no other. Gujaratis and Rajasthanis are famous for their remarkable business acumen and risk taking. Large parts of these states used to be desert, with harsh surroundings and lack of resources, making their inhabitants a tenacious bunch. Perhaps it is the day to day adversities that their forefathers faced that must have led to a strong family tradition, the cohesive unit essential for survival under adversity. It is the hallmark of India, but more so for these states. It is extraordinary to find so many successful businessmen originating from these places that mentioning them would fill the pages of this book quickly. Some of them are Dhirubhai Ambani, Gautam Adani, Azim Premji, Radhakrishnan Damani, Kumar Mangalam Birla, Lakshmi Mittal, Ajay Piramal, and the list goes on and on. Gujaratis have a knack for sensing business opportunities domestically and internationally. They don't like to work for others and prefer the entrepreneurial route. Perhaps that's why we see Gujaratis moving to other countries in Europe, America, Africa, and more, and making a mark there through sheer integrity and hard work. There is a saying that describes this well: simple living, high thinking. Case in point, less than 1 million Gujaratis in the USA own an impressive 42% of all motels. Famous investor Charlie Munger once said, "The Patels from India know more about motels than you do. They live in the goddamn hotel. They don't pay income tax legally. They don't pay much to the workers in compensation. Every dime that they get, they fix up and buy another motel. Do you want to compete with the Patels? Not I." Closer home, even though Gujaratis make up only 5% of the country's population, they account for over 18.4% of the industrial production, 20% of India's exports, 23% of annual milk production, 25.3% of cotton production, 40% of silk production, 70% of denim fabric producers, 80% of processed diamond production, and 85% of silver jewelry produced, and nearly 50% of all Indian billionaires. Family at the core of everything. No wonder Gautam Adani has shined throughout his career and exhibited the forementioned qualities, especially the sheer commitment to his family. For him, his family, an extended family, is the cornerstone of his life. Gautam has shown that despite busy schedules, important commitments, and large public glare, the family does not get neglected. Gujarati households are known to prioritize family time. One of the ways Gujaratis bond with their family is by having meals together. Most families have dinner together or visit restaurants with their entire families to have a good time. Anyone visiting Gujarat can observe how the country clubs and restaurants are full of families in the evening with grandparents, parents, and kids chatting over a hearty meal. As Gautam said once in a TV interview, "I have a rule. When I'm having lunch in the office, all family members who are available are usually in the dining room with me." Better half. Even though Gautam is only educated till 10th grade, he married a dentist, Dr. Preeti Adani. Preeti Adani was born in Mumbai in 1965, but later moved to Ahmedabad to complete her dentistry. Theirs was an arranged marriage. Adani describes this alliance as a mismatch and calls himself an illiterate in comparison to his dentist wife. However, their matrimonial alliance has remained strong. Preeti Adani sacrificed her career to support Gautam wholeheartedly and has been the pillar of strength through thick and thin. Preeti is the chairperson of the Adani Foundation, a non-profit organization, and has been involved in charity over the last 2 decades, uplifting millions of people. Last year, on Gautam's 60th birthday, the Adani Group committed 60,000 crores to this foundation. The foundation works in 4 core areas across 18 states of India, such as education, community health, sustainable livelihood development, and infrastructure development. In an interview on the talk show Aapki Adalat, he emphasizes the fact that when he returns home at night, he spends 2 to 2.5 hours talking to his wife, children, and granddaughter over the dining table. Later, Gautam and his wife play Rummy, a card game also known as Paplu, together. This is a secret, and when I go at night, I play Rummy/Paplu game with Preeti. I play 8 to 10 games, and most of the time, she wins, Adani revealed. Children. Preeti and Gautam Adani have been blessed with 2 sons, Karan and Jeet Adani. There is an age gap of 11 years between them, Karan being the elder sibling. Both sons are very close to their parents and have completed their education from prestigious US universities. Karan Adani pursued his graduation from Purdue University in General Management Studies. He is currently the CEO of Adani Ports and SEZ, a role he assumed in 2016. Jeet Adani attended the University of Pennsylvania School of Engineering and Applied Sciences and thereafter joined the Adani Group in 2019. He is currently working as the Vice President of Group Finance and works very closely with all the companies of the Adani Group. Family business. Many people accuse Adani Group of being a family business, thereby questioning their trustworthiness as a public company. However, if they understood the close family relationships that exist in India, it wouldn't come as a surprise. Even now, several large Indian conglomerates have scaled as family businesses, which is quite contrary to the businesses in the West. In Adani's case, not just his children, but also many of his brothers are actively involved in the day-to-day business affairs of the Adani Group. They together built the plastic processing and import business during the early years of Gautam and even now play an important role in key businesses. Chapter 7. The Hindenburg Saga. Business is all about risk-taking and managing uncertainties and turbulence. Gautam Adani. The year 2021 to 2022 looked extremely good for the Adani Group. Business is looking up after the COVID-19 pandemic. Market capitalization is at an all-time high. Gautam Adani got crowned the second richest person on the planet. The world media has its eyes on Gautam Adani. Shy Gautam Adani makes his rare appearance in a popular TV show, Aapki Adalat, earlier in January 2023. And the public in general loved his persona, simplicity and thought process. Adani Group is all set to open India's largest FPO, which is further public offering. But then, on January 24th to 25th, 2023, a New York-based investment research firm and activist short seller, Hindenburg Research, came up with its explosive report. Adani Group, how the world's third richest person is pulling the largest con in corporate history. The report came at a time when the Adani Group's flagship company, Adani Enterprises, had planned a follow-on public offer on 27th January 2023 to raise 20,000 crores to fund their expansion plans. You might have heard of an initial public offering or an IPO, where a company issues shares and lists them in the stock markets. In an FPO, a company which is already listed on the stock markets issues additional shares to the public in exchange for money. At a whopping 20,000 crores, this FPO was said to be India's largest. Around 11,000 crores of the proceeds would go towards Adani Group's green energy projects and 5,000 crores towards repayment of debt. Adani Enterprises was issuing new shares at the price band of 3,112 rupees to 3,276 rupees when the stock was trading just shy of 3,500. FPOs usually trade at a discount to the market price to encourage participation. Little did they know that they would have to withdraw the FPO in wake of their stock meltdown. It all started when the New York-based research investment firm and activist short seller Hindenburg Saga released its report, Adani Group, how the world's third richest person is pulling the largest con in corporate history on January 24, 2023. What is Hindenburg? Founded by Nathan Anderson in 2017, Hindenburg Research is known to short sell a company shares or bonds and then expose their findings in their reports. So far, they've published reports on several companies, and their previous notable victim was the once well-known EV startup Nikola by Trevor Milton. Ever since Hindenburg released its report on Nikola in September 2020, the stock has seen nearly a 98% drop from $40 to under $1. Adani Group isn't the first Indian operated company to be a target of Hindenburg. In June 2017, they released a report on Eros International, which was Eros's key operating subsidiary in India, highlighting their weak financials and accusing them of accounting irregularities. Eros International stock has dropped over 90% since then. Hindenburg Report and allegations. The Hindenburg Research's primary allegation in Adani's case revolved around offshore shell companies based in Mauritius, UAE, and Caribbean islands holding Adani shares and decreasing the public float illegally. As per the Indian security market governing body, SEBI, listed companies must have a public float of at least 25%. If these allegations were true, the public float in the case of Adani Group would be much lesser. Hindenburg also raised questions on the integrity and involvement of the Adani family members. These included Gautam Adani's brother Rajesh Adani and Vinod Adani and his brother-in-law Sameer Arora. Hindenburg cited past accusations of their involvement in the diamond trading scam and having links with these offshore accounts. Additionally, Hindenburg questioned Vinod Adani's ownership in many Adani Group companies despite having no operational presence. Hindenburg also claimed Adani Group's alliance with the market manipulators such as Ketan Parekh and Dharmesh Doshi. Hindenburg also suggested that Adani Group stocks, even if you ignore the findings of our investigation and take financials of Adani Group at face value, are significantly overvalued. They compared financial ratios of the industry average to draw this conclusion. Lastly, Hindenburg underscored how Adani Group's high debt levels, which stand at over $30 billion, posed a threat to the Indian banking sector. Towards the end of the report, Hindenburg shared a list of 88 questions for Gautam Adani and the Adani Group to answer. The aftermath. Adani Enterprises FPO began on January 27th, right after the release of the Hindenburg Report. Their stock saw a sharp decline of almost 20% on January 27th, 2023, taking its stock price to 2761, which is 2761 rupee, substantially lower than the FPO price. While everyone was expecting the FPO to fail, with the help of friendly family offices, institutional investors, and foreign investors, the FPO was fully subscribed by January 31st. Adani Enterprises, however, chose to withdraw the FPO in the show of good faith and commitment towards investors. For the Adani Group stocks, though, the worst was yet to come. February was a bloodbath with declines of anywhere between 27% to 85%. Between January 24th and March 1st, the Adani Group stocks saw severe declines. Adani Group's response. On January 29th, 2023, Adani Group in response released a 413-page statement dismissing their claims. They further conveyed how many of Hindenburg's claims paint a misguided picture and exhibit malicious misrepresentation in an attempt to create a false narrative around the company to profit from it. It also went on to call this a calculated attack on India, Indian institutions, and its growth story. With regards to the 88 questions, 65 of them had been duly disclosed in the filings by the Adani Group companies. Adani Group shared details on page 27 and page 54. Further, the Adani Group attached several documents such as different disclosures, tribunals, contracts, and court records between page 55 and 409 to back their claims and refute those of Hindenburg. As for the allegations against different family members of the Adani family, like in the case of the diamond trading scam, the response pointed towards the case dismissals by the Indian law authorities. Even the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Adani Group. Additionally, on allegations of offshore shell companies being used to purchase and hold shares of the Adani Group, the response clarified how these claims are mere speculations backed by no concrete evidence and without any understanding of the Indian laws around related parties and related party transactions. Lastly, as far as the debt is concerned and Adani's risk to the Indian banking industry, Indian banks declared that their exposure to Adani is well under 1%. Further, they reassured that this debt is backed by income producing assets, as we discussed in chapter 3. Even the New York Times, commonly accused of biased and patronizing tone against India, said that the Adani Group's assets would be enough to cover and pay back the debt of all lenders. The Adani Group has criticized Hindenburg for making defamatory, baseless claims that can damage the interest of their stakeholders. Finally, the Adani Group also hired the US legal firm Wachtel, Lipton, Rosen and Katz to fight back against the Hindenburg research as of February 10, 2023. The Hindenburg saga kicked up political storm in India. For a long time, many have been attributing Gautam Adani's and Adani Group's rise to the current government in power, the Bharatiya Janata Party. After the Hindenburg Report, that criticism has become even sharper. The Congress, along with other opposition parties, waged an all-out war against the BJP by disrupting the budget session of the parliament in the latter half of March 2023. The opposition parties have demanded a joint parliamentary committee, JPC, to probe the allegations levelled by Hindenburg. The Supreme Court of India too took cognizance of the Hindenburg allegations and ordered a probe. A PIL, public interest litigation, has been filed to prosecute Hindenburg Research and Nathan Anderson for allegedly exploiting innocent investors and artificially crashing Adani Group stocks. However, this calls for an interesting case study. Is BJP the real reason behind Adani's rise? And how true are these allegations? Chapter 8, Political Controversies. If an individual wants to be a leader and isn't controversial, that means he never stood for anything. Richard Nixon. Indians are politically savvy, and virtually everyone has an opinion on current events. We reveal in debates or arguments in our living rooms, offices, street corners, or tea stalls. The Indian media knows this all too well. So every time a businessman or an organization is under the spotlight for any reason, they try to drive a frenzy around these issues, with or without evidence, and would not give up until the last drop of this controversy has been milked. The Modi government has been declared as Ambani Adani ki Sarkar, which means Ambani Adani's government by the opposition, meaning that this government unfairly favors these business houses. The opposition parties, along with some sections of the media, have been able to keep this image alive in the minds of several people in the general public, and with each approaching election, they rack it up. Here are a few controversies that have erupted since 2014, which have targeted the Adani Group specifically. In 2014 general elections, the Bharatiya Janata Party returned to power after a 10-year gap. Mr. Narendra Modi, the successful Chief Minister of Gujarat for 4 successive terms, was the face of the BJP as the prime ministerial candidate. Against the backdrop of massive corruption scandals that erupted during the 10-year tenure of the United Progressive Alliance or UPA government, a coalition of opposition parties put together by the Indian National Congress, Modi won a famous victory on the pole plank of good governance and development following the success of the Gujarat model. During the 2014 elections and thereafter, the Congress party, more specifically its leader and scion of the Gandhi family, Rahul Gandhi, has been trying to pin Modi and his government down on the issue of corruption and misgovernance. One of the targets they have found is Gautam Adani. Rahul Gandhi in his speeches and interviews constantly talks about the unholy nexus between Modi government and Adani. They accuse Adani of getting undue favors from the government and cite this as a primary reason behind Adani's meteoric rise since 2014. It is worth noting that Modi is considered a pro-business leader, as we have already discussed in detail in Chapter 4 and Chapter 6. Gujaratis, both Modi and Adani, hail from Gujarat, are known for their entrepreneurial spirit and risk-taking ability. We would analyze some of the issues raised by the Congress party and other opposition parties here and try to ascertain if these allegations are true. To this end, we will present some data here to show the comparisons between the periods of the UPA government from 2004 to 2014 and the Modi government from 2014 to the present. We would then leave the final interpretation to the wisdom of the readers, all listeners in this case. The 1 rupee land. In the run-up to the elections in 2014, Rahul Gandhi, as reported by NDTV, accused the Gujarat government of selling land cheaply to Adani for as low as 1 rupee, the price of a toffee. He called it Gujarat's toffee model. However, Adani started acquiring land for the Mundra port in 1993 when the Congress-backed Chimman Bhai Patel government was in power. Under CM Chimman Bhai Patel, the Adani Group acquired land for 10 paisa per square meter. In 1995, under Chief Minister Keshu Bhai Patel, the Adani Group paid 1 rupee per square meter. They continued the land buying spree in 1996 under the Chief Minister Shan Kersen Vegla government, again supported by the Congress party at 1.5 rupee per square meter. Lastly, the biggest chunk of land of 5,590 hectares was acquired in 2005 under Chief Minister Narendra Modi for 14 rupees and 50 paisa per square meter as per the development of SEZ, Special Economic Zone. The land acquired by Gautam was marshy, often underwater during the monsoon. These lands were undesirable and hence worthless. This is why when Gautam came up with the proposition of filling these lands to develop a port, it was readily accepted. The land acquisition set the foundation of Adani ports, which went on to create over 100,000 direct and indirect jobs. Today, Mundra port is India's largest port that handles 339 million metric tons of cargo as of financial year 2023 alone. Linkage between Adani's rise and Modi government. As previously mentioned, One of the prime accusations that Gautam constantly faces from various opposition parties is that Adani's rise in fortunes coincided with Modi becoming the Prime Minister in 2014. Responding to this accusation, Gautam shared how the Adani Group began taking off in the 1980s under the Congress government's new export-import policies introduced by Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, which we've already covered in the previous chapters. Another breakthrough for Adani Group came during the 1990s, again when Congress was in power under Prime Minister PV Narasimha Rao during liberalization. Gautam also underscored how his companies have had operations and continue to sign contracts across the country in states like West Bengal, Rajasthan and Andhra Pradesh along with Tamil Nadu and more, which are governed by opposition parties. All these contracts, he says, have come from winning open tenders and all in public domain. It is a paradox how at the center Adani controversies are often used as a stick to beat the Modi government, but at the state level the same opposition parties welcome Adani Group's investments with open arms. Here are some examples. Bengal, TMC government under Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. The Adani Group is developing a 25,000 crore Tajpur port in West Bengal. Rajasthan, Congress government under CM Ashok Gehlot. India's largest 10,000 megawatts solar park in Rajasthan with a 50-50 JV between the government and Adani Group of 65,000 crores or $7.8 billion. Andhra Pradesh, YSR party, CM Jagan Mohan Reddy. Adani Group is investing 60,000 crores in green energy projects in the state. Tamil Nadu, the Kamuthi solar power plant which we've already talked about. Now let's talk about the growth under the Congress versus the BJP. Analyzing the growth of three of Adani Group's companies that have existed between 2004 and 2023 would help us derive a parallel between the growth seen under the Congress government and allies between 2004 and 2014 and the BJP between 2014 and 2023. A lot of this data is available in our book, but very briefly, Adani Enterprises saw a growth of 14.07% in revenue per annum under Congress and allies between 2004 and 14, whereas it only saw a growth of 10.49% between 2014 and 2023. Adani Ports saw a growth of 47.78% between 2004 and 2014 in revenue, whereas it only saw a growth of 16.86% under the BJP government between 2014 and 2023. And lastly, Adani Power. While it saw a CAGR of 149.9% between 2004 and 2014, the growth was a mere 11.86% in revenue between 2014 and 2023. It is clearly evident from the above data that Adani Group's revenue and profits growth was way higher during the UPA era than in the BJP era. Selling airports to Adani. The Adani Group has been on an airport bidding spree to take position rights of different airports. An accusation by the opposition is that the government sold off all airports to the Adani Group. The word selling has been used deceptively here. These contracts are usually 50-year-long leases under a public-private partnership model. As per National Monetization Pipeline, the government generates revenue on a per-passenger basis from these airports. To verify the accusations and ascertain whether the Adani Group got undue favors in the bidding process, we looked at the data revealed by the Airport Authority of India. The data reveals the per-passenger bids by different contenders who wanted to manage 6 airports: Ahmedabad, Jaipur, Lucknow, Thiruvananthapuram, Mangalore and Guwahati. The bids clearly showcase that Adani Group was the highest bidder by a mile for all these 6 airports, as you would be able to see in our book. AAI awarded the contract hence to the Adani Group. LIC and public sector banks helping Adani. One of the most prominent allegations post the Hindenburg Saga is that public sector companies such as Life Insurance Corporation (LIC) and national banks such as the State Bank of India (SBI) have been helping the Adani Group. They have allegedly been investing in their stock and giving them loans and are bound to put LIC and SBI investors and depositors at risk. LIC has a total asset portfolio of over 40 lakh crores invested across asset classes including the stock markets. In comparison, LIC's total holding in Adani Group companies is right around 56,000 crores. LIC has big holdings in almost every major listed Indian company in the stock markets, such as ITC, Reliance Industries and HDFC Bank. Adani Group stocks are no different. Similarly, huge figures are quoted by the opposition to make their point. However, a fluctuation of even 1% in 40 lakh crores investment portfolio implies a profit or a loss of 40,000 crores. Here is a tweet by Mawa Moitra, which says that SBI says that Adani Group owes 27,000 crores, a whopping 27% of its loan book. SBI's gross loan book is over 32 lakh crores as of financial year 23. Adani's exposure of 27,000 crores thus is less than 0.9% of SBI's loan book. The self-realization of a poor math might have prompted Mawa Moitra to delete her tweet later. Short and distort in the stock markets is an unethical and illegal practice of short selling a stock and then spreading negative rumors about it. This is done to drive the stock price down and profit from the same. Similarly, a lot of such claims made by the opposition are shoot and scoot. For anyone lacking knowledge of this financial jargon and terminologies, these baseless claims by the opposition are a mere strategy to sway away popular sentiments of the markets and to mislead the crowds. Another such example is the Chief Minister of Delhi, Arvind Kejriwal, who came into power through the 2011 anti-corruption movement. He alleged that industrialist Gautam Adani is merely a front for Prime Minister Narendra Modi and that money actually belongs to Mr. Modi. Kejriwal made this statement while addressing the Delhi Assembly without providing any evidence for his claim. In India, politicians and businessmen work hand in glove. Businessmen fund elections, give donation to parties, and are often seen hobnobbing with them on various occasions. To single out Adani in the face of state leaders of the opposition parties wooing him for investments shows true hypocrisy and seems like a political move to target BJP and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Accusations fly high without any evidence, and that to some extent applies in the case of Gautam Adani. Chapter 9 Conclusion What Lies Ahead. After the Hindenburg Saga, there had been an all-round attack on the Adani Group. During this time, the Adani Group was probably going through its worst phase. Their stocks had crashed and FPO was withdrawn. The opposition parties were constantly demanding a JPC, and Adani had become a topic of national discussion. The Supreme Court also constituted a 6-member panel of experts on March 2, 2023 to probe the Hindenburg researchers' allegations of stock manipulation against the Adani Group. Then, what does it all mean for the future of the Adani Group? Supreme Court monitored probe, recent developments. The expert committee submitted its report before the Supreme Court on May 19, 2023, which said that there was no prima facie evidence to suggest any stock market manipulation. According to Hindustan Times, the Supreme Court appointed expert committee to look into regulatory failure by the Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, and alleged breach of laws by the Adani Group, has informed the Supreme Court in its report that allegations of stock manipulation or violation of minimum public shareholding norms by Adani Group companies cannot be proved at this stage. The accusation of holding over 75% stake in listed entities via shell companies continues to be investigated by the Supreme Court. As of now, there is little knowledge and evidence of the same. When the final findings of the committee's report come out, they will clear the air on the allegations leveled against the Adani Group. SEBI's new proposed norms. In the wake of Adani Hindenburg Saga, the Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, has proposed new norms for seeking more disclosures from foreign funds with large holding in Indian companies, as reported by Times of India on May 31, 2023. FPIs need to disclose the ownership of investments. More scrutiny and granular data now needs to be provided. After the norms are implemented, companies would have 6 months to disclose the information. Shares rebound. The fallout of the Hindenburg Report has been discussed extensively in Chapter 8. It resulted in steep declines in the stock prices of Adani Group companies. But since then, all stocks have significantly recovered between March 1st and 1st June 2023. Raising money. On the heels of the Hindenburg row, Adani surprisingly withdrew its 20,000 crore FPO in February 2023, despite success in closing the offer. On March 2nd, Adani Group sold a stake in 4 group companies, Adani Ports, Adani Green Energy, Adani Transmission, and Adani Enterprises for 15,446 crores to Florida-based GQG partners. Moreover, the Adani Group has announced fundraising plans to raise $2.56 billion by selling shares in Adani Enterprises and Adani Transmissions on the 13th of May 2023. The fall? Question mark. If there is any significance of the word fall in the Adani Group story, it's their stock market capitalization. These valuations, however, are notional and they change with the sentiments of the market participants. Before investing one's hard-earned money in a stock, it's paramount to study a company's business in depth and assess its valuations. Legendary investor Warren Buffett once said, Ben Graham was right that in the short run, the market is a voting machine, but in the long run, it is a weighing machine. Sooner or later, the amount of cash that a business can disgorge in the future governs the value that its stocks command in the market. What that implies is that fundamentals of a business are independent of the short-term volatility in the stock market prices and can only be precisely assessed in the long term. While the Adani Group stocks have fallen, it's worth noting that the fundamentals of their businesses have remained unchanged and robust, as it is evident in the various figures that you would see in the book. For most of the Adani Group's companies, the revenue shows a robust growth trend year over year for the last 3 years. The profitability also shows positive growth trends. Blessing in disguise. One major outcome of the Hindenburg Report has been Adani's push to deleverage. The Adani Group has reduced the debt on the books by $2.65 billion through prepayment of share-backed loans and the loan taken to acquire Ambuja Cement, as per Economic Times, resulting in improvement in combined net debt to operating profit to 3.27 times in financial year 23 from 3.81 times in financial year 2022. Future: India rising. Adani's future is what India's future is. The Indian economy has a strong foundation and demographic dividend that no other country in the world can match. India is the brightest star on the horizon right now. Barring any catastrophic incidents, India's businesses will continue to show strong growth over the next decade. The Indian government's goal of making India a 5 trillion economy is well on its way. Recently published economic data surprised everyone who was bearish on the Indian economy. For financial year 22-23, the Indian economy grew at an impressive 7.2%, beating expert estimates. While most major economies have a high probability of a recession, Bloomberg estimates that the probability of India to be in a recession is 0. India stands as a beacon of hope in an otherwise gloomy outlook. Gautam Adani anticipates India to be a $30 trillion economy by 2050, and most economists would agree. Jeff Bezos says, I predict that the 21st century is going to be an Indian century. India, or Bharat, is poised to become a global economic superpower. As they say, the future is so bright, I gotta wear shades. The authors. Manish Mudgal is a long-term educationist and finance professional with vast corporate experience spanning industries such as steel, insurance, and healthcare. He is an MBA in Finance and Operations from the Owen Graduate School of Management, Vanderbilt University, USA. Yash Kumar, an entrepreneur with a deep interest in everything finance, is currently running an exciting venture of FinScout. Yash is an avid stock market investor and a political enthusiast with an education in finance and management from the University of Nottingham, UK. As true believers in India's remarkable growth story and resurgence to glory, they intend to bring incredible stories that define India. Stay tuned.